Hey folks, Quilly18 here, and welcome to a little video on Last Epoch, an action RPG game I have been playing for the last week. Action RPGs are a wonderful, very diverse genre that a lot of people still just think of as Diablo clones, which I think is very unfair to the massive variety of action RPGs that exist out there. Last Epoch is currently in early access. I'm playing on beta 0.8.5 over here. It does not yet have multiplayer, but I believe that is going to be the next major patch, and people are very excited for all that. What makes this action RPG different from others? Well, let's take a look at that as I set up a few things on my brand new character here, Quilrain, currently a rogue. There are 5 base classes currently in Last Epoch. However, each one of those classes, when they get about halfway through the campaign, we'll be choosing from one of 3 different masteries. Currently, the Falconeer mastery is not yet implemented for the Rogue, but the Blade Dancer and the Marksman is. So in practice, this really means there's 15 different classes, more or less, with a little bit of overlap. But even within each specialization, there's a lot of different ways to make some builds, which is what you would expect from action RPGs. Perhaps not yet the level of diversity of one of the games that have been out for years and years and years, like a Path of Exile or a Grim Dawn, but enough to really be quite exciting as is and to look forward to the future. So how does that actually differ? Well, first of all, when you level up, you do get a path of skill point that you will be putting into, at first, just your base class, and later on your specialization. Now, this is not terribly different than some other things. For example, I might be like, hey, Swift Assassin, that sounds like a pretty good idea. I have currently no points spent, so, attack speed and physical damage, that's pretty good. Steady Hand gives you health, which, not dying is pretty good, and dexterity. Well, with a rogue, dexterity does tend to boost most of my skills. That wouldn't be a bad choice. There's also Guile, which gives me dodge and poison resistance. It's also worth noting that Guile leads to evasion, which then leads to agility, whereas Swift Assassin leads to lethal cadence, which then leads to disembowel. Steady Hand doesn't lead anywhere, but that's not the end of the world. And in fact, I strongly suspect there's a good chance that in the end I might want to put a bunch of points in both Swift Assassin and Steady Hand. For now, I'll just go and put points in the Swift Assassin. Hey, as soon as we get to 5 ranks in here, we've actually unlocked Smoke Bomb. That's also where we unlock the second tier of abilities over here. For example, if I want to be a dual wielder, then I would probably have wanted to put a point into Twin Blades. But I'm going to play this character as an archer because I actually very rarely do that. I plan on specializing in the Marksman mastery over here later on, but I have unlocked a new ability called Smoke Bomb. Let's take a look at our skills. So if I hit this button, S here, I will open up my skills and specialization screen. And this lists all the skills that my character can have access to. In fact, the Rogue actually has access to fewer skills than some of the other classes. For example, I've played the Sentinel to level 79, I think, and the Acolyte all the way through to, I think, the high 50s. And they do have a few more skills available than the Rogue. But the interesting thing is this. So as the Rogue, I'm going to get access to all these Rogue skills, plus all these Rogue skills. So that's a total of 10. Once I become a Marksman and level up in there, I will gain access to an extra 4 skills over there, which is a total of 14. And in fact, despite the fact that I'll be specialized as a Marksman, I will still have the ability, if I would like, to grab at least the first 2 skills of the Blade Dancer here. And whenever the Falconeer gets implemented, presumably a couple more skills over there, which means really I have access to maybe about 16 different skills here as this particular character. However, I will really only be using 5 because I can specialize in up to 5 skills as I continue to level up. Currently at my level, I can only specialize in 2 of them. And you also only have 5 slots for skills down on your quick bar. The left click here is kind of a secondary bind for one of your other abilities over here. So you're only going to have 5 skills that you have access to as buttons over here, and 5 skills that you'll specialize in, and specialized skills are much more powerful than unspecialized ones, so really you're going to be using 5 out of a fairly large pool. I'm going to be using less than 1/3 of all the skills I'll have access to for this particular character, and most notably, these skills that I specialize in can be specialized in a variety of different ways. So right away, let's take a look at maybe the basic bow attacks that I can currently have access to. I have both Flurry and Puncture are skills that cost no mana to use and are pretty good default attacks for me. I can use them either with a physical weapon or a bow. I am using a bow. Let me just, very quickly, I'm going to put the Flurry on a Q and my Puncture on the W over here, and we'll see how that works. So if I hit Q, with my Flurry, it fires 3 arrows very quickly, each time I hit the button. I can just hold down the button and it just keeps going over and over. Okay. The next one is puncture. One big shot that does go through enemies and it's pretty good. If we take a look, their DPS is currently fairly comparable, 160, 182. Puncture might win out in this situation despite having the lower number, just because the arrow goes through enemies, so it actually is probably better for clearing out basic enemies early on. So that's them just as is. There's even a little training dummy here so I can, like, you know, get a sense about the actual numbers that are going on. What happens if I were to specialize in one or the other? Well, as it turns out, I accidentally specialized in puncture, but let's take a look at what that looks like. This is the skill tree for puncture. The big first difference in Last Epoch to other action RPGs is that every single skill has its own skill tree. The skills also level independently of your character. Because I have specialized in puncture, it is currently level 1, and as I go around adventuring, it will gain XP and gain more levels. The level of the skill is capped with the character level. If the skill is under-leveled for your character, it will gain accelerated XP as a catch-up, which is very, very handy-dandy. And as you level up your character, the minimum skill for these goes up as well. So later on, if I learn a new skill, let's say, you know, later on, once I've specialized the marksman, I decide to grab Hail of Arrows, it will start at a higher level than 1, just as a bit of a catch-up. You can respecialize whenever you want. You can respec your skills with this button, undoing one skill at a time, or despecializing the skill entirely. The only downside to it is it does reset the level of specialization in that skill. So if I'd gotten puncture up to, say, level 3 or 4, I don't know what the skill cap is for this for my character. They're not matched. Like, the maximum character level is 100. The maximum skill level is 20, although you can get items that boost that. So, you know, right now I might be able to get puncture up to level 3 or 4 or something like that. So respecing will cause it to drop back down to level 1, which is not actually that big of a deal, and so you can redo these absolutely freely. Your passive skills over here, you can't respec whenever you want in the field. Instead, you go to one of these chronomancers over here, and they let you undo a skill point. So if I change my mind about this point in Assassin, it would cost me 60 gold to remove that. I have some money from my other characters. The money is currently shared on your account, but this never represents a tremendous cost. So it means that, like, respecing and committing to a build is important, but you're really not locked in. It also means if you're just starting out, you don't have to look up a bunch of build guides, which is a big contrast from, say, Path of Exile, where it's very difficult to respec, and you really do have to look at some build guides before you even get started in practice. Don't get me wrong, I love Path of Exile, but this is incredibly convenient. So let's say right now, okay, there's no reason for me to use both Flurry and Puncture because there's a lot of overlap between those two currently. So I'm going to specialize in Puncture, and let's see what we can do. So I currently only have 1 point to spend, so not much is going to happen. We start here. We can go in any connected direction. So I could either grab Splinter, which gives me a chance to shred enemy physical resistance per hit. That's a pretty good thing to do. We could go to Timing over here, which slows down the attack rate but gives me more damage. Ooh. Or we could get Perforate, which has a chance to cause enemies to bleed, dealing damage over time. That scales with physical damage. Ooh, all these sound pretty good. Perhaps more importantly, though, is where they lead. So once I can put up to 5 points in Perforate, because it's 0 at 5 over here. But if I have at least 2 points in Perforate, then it actually unlocks this connection to Press the Attack. So I could invest in Press the Attack, which gives me the ability to maybe gain some Frenzy, which gives me increased attack speed. Ooh, that sounds pretty good. If I put at least 1 point in Press the Attack, I can then continue in any one of these directions over here, including Cadence of Death. Now, Cadence of Death has a hexagon around it. You can see a few of these that have hexagons. These are fairly transformative. So Cadence of Death makes it so that every third attack deals more damage and in a larger area. And then I can keep going further down here into Mutilate. Some of these are very transformative. Sanguine Obsession here doesn't actually give me a buff. Right now, it just changes any poison chance that I have into bleed chance. So this is how you can transform the base elements of some of your attacks to different types, depending on what kind of strategy you might be implementing. What's another good example? Oh, Stay of Execution. There's another pretty transformative one. This actually lets me charge up my weapon attack. Boom! 1 giant puncture. I don't think I'm really vibing with that, so that's probably not where I want to go. It doesn't mean it's not powerful. I don't think I want that kind of charge up move. So currently, puncture is a pretty good, more or less single target. It does pass through things. But there are other ways to transform. Some of these skills can be transformed radically from single target to area of effect. Still, all right, we've got that. What else might I want to grab? Cinder Strike. This melee or bow attack with 3 attacks. First attack also deals fiery explosion, damaging nearby enemies. Ooh. Well, maybe I should use that instead of puncture, because area of effect tends to be quite good for clearing content early on. Or what I could do is use acid flask to clear groups of enemies. Because yeah, just throws a flask. I mean, I can use it now without being specialized in it. Hang on, let me do it this way. Just throws a flask down on the ground, deals some damage, and if I specialize in it, who knows what it could do. These symbols here means that this acid flask deals physical and acid damage. Or poison damage, I suppose, actually. But there's a little flame icon that's grayed out. There's an option in the acid flask here that must allow us to change our damage to fire. Hey, we can use a search very conveniently. If I type in fire over here, you can see some nodes are being highlighted. There we go. If I look at explosive flask, it changes all physical damage to fire damage and cancels the poison damage, because instead of being an acid flask, it's going to be an explosive flask. And then we've got some extra nodes that add more fire damage. Using these icons, I can quickly look at things and say, listen, if I used Cinder Strike and Acid Flask, and Hail of Arrows and Detonating Arrows, all these have the little fire symbol. I could be a flame-based archer. Or, hey, these both have frost symbols. So does Umbral Blade. Oh, maybe there's some frosty stuff I could do as kind of thing. Or maybe I want multiple elements. Like maybe I want synergy, or maybe I want variety. So you're going to grab a number of things, including support things. Like, hey, you know what? This acid flask, who needs this right now? Not me. I'm going to grab Swift. It's a cool little short-range teleport. Ooh. Deal damage with my next damaging skill after shifting by 25%. That's quite a lot. Or what else? If using a melee weapon when shifting, you strike. Well, I'm not using a melee weapon, but clearly there's a big build over here that gives you the ability to use shift as a melee, like, rush forward attack. Or, hey, shifting heals me. Because I might be using shift as an emergency button to get it out of the way. I could make it so that shift heals me all of a sudden. Ooh, there's a few different possibilities. Do I want to use it as damage booster, a healer? Hell, I could use a few different things, but probably I want to focus down a category. Always crit with the next non-channeled skill. So all of a sudden, okay, if I go down the right-hand side here with Swift, and, okay, let me bind my left click to puncture. Let me, oops, clear these, put Swift over here. So now I can hit Q to rush forward, and the next attack I do is going to do bonus damage. So I shift, attack, and then every time shift comes up on cooldown, I just shift and then move again. The only thing I'm doing that uses mana right now is the shift. Not happening. Because my auto attack doesn't. Well, that sounds like a bit of a possibility, and then who knows where we'll go forward. In terms of puncture, shred resistance. Oh, it gives us more damage if we're using a bow. Well, that's what I'm using this weapon for. So I'm going to go in this direction. I need 2 points in splinter. Then I'm going to be able to add more damage to my bow per pierce. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. We're throwing through packs of things. Excellent. So we're going to rush forward, and then we're going to bow things. Hey, we've got a little bit of a build getting started. That's lovely. Let's talk about crafting, which is the next thing that makes this game quite unique. So in this game, your items, like in most games... Oh, I forgot to do something. Ignore what I'm about to do in a second. Ignore all this. There we go. I wanted that to be clear before we started. In this game, when you drop an item... So this is an item. This is a magic bow over here. It's got a dot here and a dot here. That means it has one prefix and one suffix. And if we look at this bow... yeah, it's a pillager short bow of wounds. So it has added fire damage and a chance to bleed on hit. Well, that's quite cool. Can we make this bow better? Well, yeah, I can open the forge screen over here. Now, forges exist on the map. Actually, I don't think there's a forge in this town. But you can click on a forge in a town, but you can just hit F to open it up. What you can do is you can slap a piece of gear in there. Let me clear all this. And we get a breakdown. Here you can see these are the prefixes. So the bow fire damage, and the suffixes, chance to bleed on hit. Cool. Each item can have up to 2 prefixes and 2 suffixes. Plus some sealed stuff, which is a whole other thing. But, you know, as a general rule, we've got that. And as you adventure around, you pick up shards. Now, what shards do is they let you add more affixes, either a prefix or a suffix, to your item. So, well, that's pretty cool. Let's see. Well, I'm still doing a lot of physical damage. Maybe, can I add... Oh, there we go. Bow damage right over here. It's going to be a prefix. I have 37 increased bow damage shards. They're fairly common. So let's click on that. Now, my bow has 14 forging potential. As long as there's any forging potential, as long as the forging potential isn't 0, you can craft the item. The thing is, And I know I'm about to add increased bow damage to my bow. That's 100% going to happen. There's no chance to fail. I know what I'm going to get exactly. It's going to be bow damage. The only thing I don't know is how much forging potential it's going to use. It might only use 1, which means I can buff the hell out of this bow. Or it might roll 18, which is more than I have, but it'll still succeed. It can't fail, but it might eat all my forging potential, and I might only get a single forge out of this, and then we'll be stalled. Let's see what happens if I add this affix. I actually got a critical success over here, which preserved forging potential and crafting material. That's really, really good luck. I didn't use any forging potential, and I didn't use one of my shards. The forging potential in this case being more important because these shards are super common. And now all of a sudden, I've got 10% increased bow damage from this. Hey, that's quite cool. Now, I could add another affix here. The only thing I have left now are these suffixes because the prefixes are filled. So I would just look at the suffixes. I could add a chance to maybe ignite, or poison. We could bleed and poison them on a hit. Or I could do health on kill, so I regenerate myself. I don't use minions, so that's not particularly useful. But hey, no, that sounds pretty good. We could add one of those. Or instead of adding a new trait, so I could add poison on hit. It would use that particular thing and do this. Instead of that, I'm going to decide to level up. Let's add, you know what? I like the fire damage is flat damage, which is probably worth a lot right now. We're not really doing any fire synergy yet, but a static plus blank damage is probably better than a percentage increase in damage currently. So let's upgrade the bow fire damage. It's currently a tier 2 affix, affix, a prefix here. If I hit this, what it's going to do, it's going to try to add fire bow damage, which is the same. I can also, I could click on this and in currently applied, I could pick the fire bow damage, it's the same thing. We're going to level up from a tier 2 to a tier 3 prefix over here. Now this is going to use 1 to 12 forging potential. So no matter what, I'm going to be able to do this at least twice because you can't use all 14 in one go. But I'm actually going to go over here and I'm going to use a Glyph of Hope, which has a 25% chance of not using any forge potential. That's including the crit stuff. Oh, except I can't because this bow, to get to the next tier fire damage, I'd actually need to be at least level 12 because it's going to change this item requirement to mean I have to be at least level 12. So never mind. I guess I'm not going to do that. Let's level up the bow damage some more. Same thing. So it could use 1 to 10, but we got a 25% chance of it being free. Glyph of Hope preserved the potential. Still use the glyph, but that's okay. Now, unfortunately, I'm not high enough level to add any more of this. Let's level up the bleed chance. No, I can't do that either. Okay, let's just add something else. Let's add the poison to hit. Sure, why not? So we're going to add poison here. Done. It only used 1 forge potential. Wow. I'll use it again. Wow. Okay, this actually worked out pretty well. We're down to 5 forging potential, which means I can do more forging, but right now I have to wait for my character to level up more before I can do that anymore. Still, we've dramatically improved our damage on this bow. I can do a few others. Let's take a look at this quiver over here. It's got room for a suffix. We could add some resistances. That's never bad. You know, physical resistance, or we could add all elements, which would be cold, fire, and lightning. That's not too shabby right now. Elemental resistances aren't quite as critical in this game as some other ARPGs, just because the way negative resistance works isn't quite as punishing, but it's still pretty good. You're probably still gonna want to try to cap out your resistances. It's just not the end-all and be-all of all things the same way. But yeah, so we could add some defensive stuff, but right now, you know what? I think I'm just happier to just kill more faster. Hey, we can add some flat physical bow damage. Let's do that. Let's level this up. Boom. All right, use 7. Let's add some flat lightning. Oh, that's percentage lightning damage. That doesn't sound very useful. What I'm going to use is I'm going to use a slightly different glyph this time, because I don't really need percentage lightning damage, because I'm not dealing any lightning damage really, so percent lightning damage doesn't do anything. Instead, I'm using a Glyph of Chaos. What this is going to do, it's going to upgrade this from a tier 1 to a tier 2, but then it's going to re-roll which affix this is, so it will no longer be lightning damage. Instead, it's minion damage. Well, that doesn't help me either, and now I can't do it again because it would be too high level, so... I mean, I didn't break this item because it went from a useless trait to a useless trait, but I don't really improve it either. Well, that's too bad. Let me go back to a Glyph of Hope. Let's add another suffix over here. Presumably there's something we're going to find useful. I could do more bleed, armor shred. This would be quite handy on a boss. That's pretty valuable. It's a little less common, this relic over here, or this shard, because I've only got 8 of them. And it's a new character, so I'm really only going to want to add stuff that, you know, isn't going to be too much of a cost. Tell you what, let's add physical resistance, because pretty much everything does some physical damage. So we'll go ahead and add that. Excellent. And now we've hit 0 forging potential. So now I can no longer modify this item because it's at 0. That's it, done. Still, that's going to be very handy for leveling. So yeah, the big differences in this game versus other ARPGs is every skill has its own skill tree. The crafting system is very interesting, very handy. There are uniques. There's even ways to get these uniques with legendary potential, because normally you can't modify a unique, can't forge uniques. But there's kind of a way to do it with these exalted items. Basically, this is a time travel game. There's some timey-wimey weird stuff. You can visit multiple eras, which are the same world, but at different times in different ways. Well, I haven't done it yet, but apparently you can get some of these uniques with legendary potential. I have some of them. I don't know if I can find one. I don't have very many. Oh, there you go. So this Grimoire of Necrotic Elixirs has some legendary potential. And what you do is you take this, and then you would take another reliquary grimoire. Okay, this is a particular type of item, this grimoire. You'd get another grimoire that was exalted. So I don't seem to have one of those. But, you know, you would take an exalted item of the same base type, and you, like, put them both in a box in the past, in a particular place. And then you go to the far future, and those items will have merged together. Whereas this unique will still have all the traits this unique has, but it will take, so this has 1 legendary potential, so it will take 1 stat at random from one of these exalted items. The exalted item has to have 4 traits. There's all sorts of things about it. You know, this is certainly late game stuff. But the ability to do crafting on even unique items is fascinating, especially since some of these, you know, like this item here, does it have a level requirement? I don't see it. As far as I know, I think we can use this item at level 1. Whereas this Coral Aegis over here requires level 70. So this Grimoire of Necrotic Elixirs is obviously not going to be a god tier item because you can use it from level 1. But if you found one with like 4 legendary potential, which means it could steal all 4 traits from one of these items. So you could have a god tier rare item that you then merge into a unique that has a particular interaction with things you want to do with your character. How excellent does that become all of a sudden? That's very exciting. I think that's very cool. Again, this game is still in early access. A lot of the end game stuff is still very much under development. I haven't even showcased any of the actual gameplay over here. All we've done is sat in town. Because, I mean, oops, go away, you. Let me accept this quest. Oh, hey, I completed the quest, got another passive point. How exciting. We'll accept this over here. We'll accept a quest from this guy, which will then prompt a quest from this guy.
Want to try your luck?
Who's a gambler. This is a very Diablo 2 gambler guy over here, where we do this. We can buy an item. You know what? Let's buy a short bow here. Maybe we'll get lucky. No, just a magic. We'll buy another short bow. Oh, it's a rare. You know, any chance that it's better than what we got? Meh. Oh, that's the last thing I wanted to talk about. Item filters. So, like in most of these ARPGs, killing a lot of enemies, killing enemies will drop tons of different loot. It can be overwhelming. And some action RPGs offer the ability to have some sort of loot filter. Grim Dawn has it built in. Path of Exile has very powerful item filters, although currently they do have to be made as kind of a text file separately, but there are great websites to produce them for you. Really excellent, professionally made item filters. In Last Epoch here, item filters can be built in-game. So this is the loot filter screen, and we can put very basic things in here. Let me, I wonder if I can get a dummy. Come over here. You, yes. Regular vendor. Do you sell any? Here's a normal item. There we go. And let's do this. Okay, perfect. Let's grab some random items. I'm going to throw them on the ground over here. We can take a look at that. Do this, do this. Oops. Come on. That. And that. Perfect. Let's say we just killed some boss and all this stuff dropped. And it's like, oh, that's so much stuff. Let's thin this out. So first of all, I'm going to make a rule over here where, you know what? Don't show me normal items. Who cares about normal items? So we're going to add a condition where the rarity, if the rarity is normal, we are going to want to hide those. So now, notice over here, bastard swords and things are showing. If I enable this rule, now they're hidden. Hey, perfect. You know what? I'm going to dedicate myself to being an archer. So I'm going to add a new condition for item types So we're going to hide all weapons that aren't a bow. So I'm going to confirm this. I'm going to hide that. There we go. So now I no longer see those swords. If I hold X, it disables the loot filter. Notice how this magic sword doesn't show either. Cool. Oh, but you know what? What about uniques? If there's a unique sword, I don't want it for my character, but I might want it for other characters. Okay, you know what? You're right. What I should do is come back in here, go to rarity, and we'll make a rule where any exalted, unique, or set items always show. Perfect. And this happens in order. So we want this rule to be at the top over here. So we always show unique, set, and exalted items before we hide different weapon types. Actually, you know what? I just re-rendered something. We are going to want to also hide, in the offhand, catalysts and shields, because we're not going to be using those on this character. We only want quivers. Quivers and bows, the only thing I care about on this particular character. There we go. So we fine-tune that a little bit more. Then maybe we can take it a step forward. Let's add a new rule where let's highlight anything with an affix that, let's see. Oh, there's a whole bow category of affixes. This is quite good. You know what? Anything that's got one of these bow affixes, we're going to recolor it in red. We're going to really highlight this and put an emphasis on this. Take a look at that. So now all of a sudden, these are all items that have a specific bow boosting skill on it. This one has increased bow attack speed. This one has the bow fire damage. This one here also has bow fire damage as well as increased damage. That's quite cool. I could change this. You know what? Only show it if it's got at least 2 of these bow boosters. Now only this pillager short bow is being highlighted in red because it has 2 of them. Oh, that's quite cool. That might not be what I want. Instead, what I might want to do is, okay, at least 1 is fine, but make sure it's at least, say, a tier 3 affix. Oh, now it's not being highlighted because these are only tier 2. Like that. Oh, okay. So you can set all these filters. Maybe, you know what? I'm hiding all normal items. You know what? Maybe I want to reuse this filter on another character. Let's make this rule which hides normal items only come into play if we're, say, level 5 to 100. Okay, so if we're level 1 through 4, this rule won't apply, so it'll still show normal items. So this is going to be great if we're using another character. I mean, there's so much power. If I give you an example, there's a bunch of ones you can download. I downloaded the Heavy Z's over here. So he's got this rogue, he or she, I suppose, has this rogue loot filter already set up with a lot of extra stuff in here that does some smart things, like it hides low-level versions of certain items, like when you're high level. So yeah, this here, wherever I clicked on, this is only going to run for characters from level 71 to 100, and it's going to hide the low-level versions of axes. So these axes here are all low-level axes that are going to get hidden so they don't get looted. Now, I'm this character here, again, this is my rogue. I might not care about axes at all, but this sets it up so that, you know, any good high-level axes from maybe other characters still show up. So you can do that. You know, that you can see how, like, kind of brilliant and sophisticated these systems can get and what you can design. And I like the fact that you can do it entirely through the interface over here. Now, this actually does represent a text file. There's this export over here, copy to clipboard. You can copy to clipboard and paste, but this filter already exists in a folder on your computer. If we click this, you won't see it because of the way I have the game capture, but all these are just text files on your computer. So you can modify them by text. You can very easily share them with other players. People can download it. Really, really, really wonderful. Because you don't have to identify items in this game, this is the only reason, like, specific filters for affixes work, right? Like, Path of Exile has really powerful loot filtering, but you have to identify items, which means their loot filters don't let you filter for just show me things with added physical damage, for example. Whereas this does. I can very easily, when I'm running around, if I set up these rules correctly, I know that if I want to, unless I need cash, I don't have to pick up the other things, I can just ignore anything that's not red. Although, one of the powerful things you can do with these items, let's say, you know what? Okay, this bow here, I'm not going to use this bow, but the bow fire damage, let's say that's a really good and important trait that I would like to get more of these shards. What I can do is I can open my forge window, I can drop this guy in here, and I can use a rune of shattering. Sorry. No, it is a rune. Do I not have any? Oh, no, right here. Rune of Shattering. Didn't realize it was the thing I had the most of. What this will do, instead of crafting this item, this will shatter it. And each one of these affixes will have a chance of generating shards into my shard bank over here. And it is based on the tier. So if this was a tier 5 health on kill, I could get up to 5 of those shards. So if I shatter this, there you go. I got 1 health on kill, 1 increased stun damage. Oh, I didn't get my, I didn't get the fire damage 1. It just, you know, it's kind of random. But it's a way to get some of those bits back. I do have a lot of crafting material in some of these categories. Some of them are quite rare, and some of them are quite important. Like, hey, I only have 1 of these minion physical damage shards. Ooh, that's annoying. So what I could do is I could set up a new affix over here with the, or new rule in here for, what was it, minion damage? Right over here. There you go. I want you to highlight these as maybe white. We'll use white as a sign. If I see a white item drop like that, it means it's got something on it that I would like to shatter. So this is my shatter rule. Here. Shatter me. Boop. There you go. So if I find something white, I'll pick it up and then shatter it because it's something I want. I might, this is probably another good case, oops, where maybe with just tier 1, I mean, there's a chance it just fails. So maybe I want to set it to say, listen, at least 2. That increases the chance that the shattering will give me something that's useful. Those shatter glyphs are something you can pick up, but they're also purchasable and a lot of these vendors here. I may have already bought them for this one. Oh, no, there we go. There's one over there. And any shards or glyphs or runes that you pick up, shards, glyphs, and runes are 3 different things, but they're all used for crafting. When you pick them up, there's a little button here that just transfers them to your bank. Very convenient. Very convenient. They're talking about like, oh, maybe we could automate that or whatever. You know, it's always the thing with these action RPGs. You want to balance out some quality of life stuff, but you also want people to like feel like they're picking up loot. If everything just gets sort of auto picked up and auto banked, it doesn't really feel like you're playing the game much. So where's the balance for that? In this game, you do pick up the gold automatically by running over things. You also pick up potions. Potions are quite different in this game than some others. I have, because of my current belt, I have ability to have 3 potions on me. The most I've seen so far is 4. I think a little bit more is possible, but it's not very many. My potions are here. I currently have 2. If I hit 1, I drink it. It would have healed me, but I'm full health. It has no cooldown, so you can spam the potions, but you never have a lot of them. However, just going around killing stuff, I just realized this map doesn't actually have any enemies on it, so let's just rush forward over here. Get somewhere where there's something to kill. Killing enemies, chance dropping potions. You just walk over the potion, it picks up on its own. If your belt is full, but you are injured, it will automatically pick up and drink the potion, as I understand it. Here's a health potion. So yeah, I don't have to click on it, just walk over it. Potions and gold are the only 2 things that get picked up automatically. So right now I have a fairly permissive loot filter, right? It's only going to hide normals, but I know that all I care about at this point is maybe picking up things that are highlighted red or white. Might want to pick up those shards, although I have lots of strength shards. Exalted items, the other filter I have here, the unique set and exalted, they have their own colors automatically in the game if I don't recolor them, so they'll also stand out. I mean, I can also recolor those, but there's no point. Exalted will show up as nice and purple. There you go. More boots. But, you know, I do have to set up more things, because my filter right now is only set up for, like, bow damage stuff, which I don't think can even spawn on boots and things. So I'm clearly going to want to set up a filter that, you know, also shows me, you know, good resistance gear. What I'm quite keen on is doing something like this here, these affixes, and adding a bunch more. Like, okay, not just the bow damage. I also want, you know what, anything. Let's say I'm going with fire damage and physical damage. So show me things that have got that. Physical penetration, fire penetration, that sounds pretty good. Oh, maybe we'll do a crit-based build. So show me things with crit chance and crit multiplier. That sounds pretty smart. Yeah, show me anything that's got health on it. For resistances, let's show me everything that's got all elemental resistances, necrotic, void, anything with all resistances, and physical resistance. Then what else are we going to do on this kind of character? Ooh, life leech is pretty handy. Let's throw that on. That sounds good. I do like more movement speed. That sounds like something relevant to me. And then my rogue subclass, There's some extra stuff over here. I'd have to look through this to find all the useful stuff. Oh, increased damage while wielding a bow. Clearly, that's going to be something we care about. We might want ignite and different things and whatever. Let's just ignore all this for now. Levels of different skills. Well, I'm using puncture right now, so show me everything that's got levels of puncture. That sounds good. I might want to tick on some more of these. We'll ignore the idols. I'll just hit confirm, and I'll say, yeah, listen, show me, highlight in red any item with at least 2 of these that I've selected. And these affixes have to be at least level 2 for me to care about them. So I could do that. Or I could go like total levels as well. But there you go. At least 2, and they both have to be at least level 2. They'll be highlighted in red. And so now, I mean, this is like pretty lazy mode. And that kind of loot filter, I mean, I probably need to pick up some more stuff right now because my character, I think, still has some non-magic stuff equipped. Although I could always craft to fill in that gap. Ooh, that is some damage. I mean, I guess I don't have any real defensive stuff. Face tanking with a bow might not be what I'm looking for. What could help is I could put some points into things that slow down enemies. Or gives them frailty, which lowers the amount of damage they take. You know, there's all kinds of little things I could do to do this. Yeah, I guess I finished this little area. I wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing. But yeah, see, okay, yeah, see, I'm full on potions. So if I took damage, I think it would automatically drink this potion as I ran over it. That's another crafting chart, so we'll do that. And yeah, every now and again, my inventory will be full. I'll be like, oh, transfer that. But yeah, you can. I love the loot filter. I love the fact that you specialize each individual skill. You know, that's kind of cool. You know, I did undo that as a demo, but I think I do want to keep points in Swift Assassin. I think that makes sense. These things are about to level. I'm about to get level 2 in Puncture, so I'll be able to put another point somewhere. I'm about to get level 2 in Shift. And there we have it.
Not happening.
So, yeah. It's a pretty good game. I can see why a lot of people talk about it. I've streamed it a little bit when I was trying to rest my throat. I suspect that'll probably happen some more. I actually quite like the Quilla's streams in silent for an afternoon, so I still get to feel kind of productive, but I also don't burn through my throat too much. And these action RPGs are kind of fun for that. For some reason, I don't know why. Do some more hardcore runs and try to avoid dying kind of vibe, you know? Anyway, I think that's it. I just wanted to do a little bit of highlighting of these. I like action RPGs a lot. I want more of them to exist. I'm looking forward to what other content they do with this thing. I have been doing the end game on one of my characters, my level 79 Void Knight, which is a Sentinel Mastery. All he does is spin around and kill everything that's nearby. And it's pretty enjoyable. It's literally like, well, I was gonna say it's a 1-button build. It's actually kind of a no-button build because there's a trick you can do with a lot of these things where, okay, so my numlock is on. If I hold down this, which is my pierce, and if I turn off numlock and let go of the key, there, I'm not holding down anything right now. So my character's just doing this and just move forward, and I don't even have to hit a button. It doesn't make much sense with this particular build. Let me just reset that. But it can be handy. I could automate the shift so that every time the shift cooldown comes up, it auto fires. It could be good or it could be bad. I mean, my next attack after a shift does do bonus damage, so I do want to cast it as often as possible. But I don't know if anything at all on this character is a good candidate for auto cast. But hey, my stuff leveled up. So yeah, if I put a second rank in Splinter, the next level I can start putting points in Redouble, which is nice. Same thing here. We'll do that, and then maybe we can go down some of these other branches. Chance to call it bleeding next damaging thing. And just stack more bleeding. That's pretty good. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm not saying anything that I've got any kind of idea about what kind of build to do on this rogue here, but hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Bye-bye.